Within an hour of leaving a lecture, a meeting, or a conversation you thought was important, you've already forgotten roughly half of what you heard. By the next day, that number climbs to around 70%. By the end of the week, nearly everything is gone. Not because you weren't paying attention, not because you aren't intelligent, because your brain was doing exactly what it was designed to do, and almost nobody ever told you how to stop it. In 1885, a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus did something unusual for his time. He used himself as the only test subject and spent years memorizing and retesting lists of meaningless syllables at precise intervals, tracking exactly how fast his own memory decayed over time, with a level of methodological rigor that impressed researchers for generations afterward. What he produced was one of the most replicated findings in the history of psychology. He called it the forgetting curve. The shape of it matters. Forgetting isn't gradual and even, like a candle burning steadily down. It's steep and then flat. Most of what you're going to forget about any given piece of information, you forget in the first few hours after learning it. What survives past that initial drop tends to stick around much longer. The implication is uncomfortable but precise. The moment right after you learn something new is also the moment you are most likely to lose it, and doing nothing in response is a choice to let most of it go. Ebbinghaus didn't just document the problem. He also discovered the solution almost by accident, while testing how many repetitions it took to relearn something versus learning it for the first time. He noticed that relearning was dramatically faster if it happened before the memory had fully decayed, rather than after. Even a brief review done at the right moment could reset the forgetting curve and extend the decay timeline further out each time you did it. He called this the spacing effect, and it remains one of the most robust findings in all of memory research, replicated in labs across a century of follow-up studies without ever seriously breaking down. The timing is everything. Reviewing something 5 minutes after learning it does more for long-term retention than reviewing it 5 days later. Reviewing it again a few days after that does more than reviewing it again the same afternoon. The reviews don't have to be long. They have to be timed. Each successful retrieval just before the memory fades strengthens the neural pathway slightly more than the last, and the next forgetting curve becomes flatter and slower each time you do it. Researcher Robert Bjork at UCLA has spent decades studying what he calls desirable difficulties, the counterintuitive finding that conditions that make learning feel harder in the short term consistently produce better long-term retention than conditions that feel easy and smooth. Testing yourself on material, even before you feel confident in it, outperforms rereading the same notes multiple times. Trying to retrieve something you're uncertain about does more for the memory trace than reviewing the answer passively while it sits right in front of you. The struggle to remember isn't a sign that the information isn't sticking. It's the precise mechanism by which it does. And the discomfort of that struggle is the signal your brain needs to treat the information as worth keeping. This is why the way most people study most of the time is almost perfectly calibrated to produce short-term familiarity and long-term forgetting. Reading your notes the night before a test creates a feeling of knowing that is real in the moment and gone within days. Highlighting a paragraph feels productive and does almost nothing for retention. Your eyes moved over the words, but your brain never had to work hard enough to actually encode them. The information was never really yours to keep. It was renting space, and the lease expired quietly while you assumed it had moved in permanently. So the next time you sit down to learn something you actually want to remember, the notebook isn't the last stop. It's the first. Write it down, close the notebook, wait a day, then try to recall it without looking. The effort of that retrieval, the slight discomfort of not being sure, is the exact mechanism Ebbinghaus accidentally found in his own memory more than a century ago. The curve is steep, but it only wins if you let it go uninterrupted.